Somehow this song follows me everywhere. I just don't know why. This is tea, not coffee as it's supposed to be, just in respect to the place. I'm very, 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 very grateful to be with you. The team that's organizing this is incredible. So, you know those events where you just feel the energy, and I think that really helps. Some events are so stressful. Oh my God. I think life in general is becoming very stressful. Can I ask who believes that this has been one of the most stressful years of your life? Oh, look at the enthusiastic hands. It has been, for me, for sure, the most, this year has been out to get me, let's just put it this way, right? And it's quite interesting, quite a few of my friends, I can actually think of very few of my friends who haven't had events that were incredibly stressful. And for some reason, I write about stress. Huh? Okay, lucky. No, but the idea is, I think it's a bit of external stuff, the whole geopolitical landscape, the events are happening around the world, the economy. Every now and then we get a reminder that the climate's not very happy with us, this whole AI thing and the uncertainty around it. Then, of course, you go to work, and then your boss is annoying, and your colleagues are doing things that you don't want them to do, and then you go back home, and your partner's boss was annoying, so now you have to... It's quite interesting. But when I worked on Unstressable, I worked on Unstressable with Alice Law. I don't know if you know Alice. Alice is just incredible. She's a young British author who had a story of... I think she had all of the ingredients of being stressed, all at the same time, between age 21 and 23. And so Alice brings to Unstressable what I don't have. I'm a brainiac. Unfortunately, I see the world in numbers, believe it or not, way better than I see it in words. And Alice is this very feminine, spiritual side of the book, which actually makes the book, in my view, my best work, I think, or our best work. But my bit of Unstressable started with the idea of, can I even solve that problem? Like when Alice was talking about it as an idea for a book to write together, I was like, I don't even know if that's solvable, right? Remember, I come from the corporate world where we are taught by Harvard Business Review, where someone stands on the cover of the magazine in a striped suit and basically says, oh, people perform their best results when they're stressed. I'm like, what an idiot, seriously. And somehow this can make the headline and we believe it, right? When in reality, by the way, guys, I don't have a clock and that can really worry me. Is there a clock here? Someone should wave when we're 25 minutes in so that I don't run overtime. So basically, I believe people perform their best work when they're in amazing teams, when they're in flow, when they're inspired. It depends on how you define work. If work is to move boxes, maybe pushing them a little bit will move a couple of boxes more. But if it's to create a beautiful piece of art or a beautiful, kind of connection to people, or to deal with customers, all of that basically demands other things other than stress. Stress, as a biological response, is designed to run away from a tiger. That's our biological machinery, right? And to imagine that for us to get the best out of our teams, we need them to keep running away from tigers all the time, imaginary tigers, believe it or not, is actually almost like unacceptable when you think about it. Anyway, Alice says, right, let's write about stress. I say, okay, let me think about this. And of course, being the person that I am, the first thing that comes to my mind in stress is physics. I apologize, I know this is not the room for physics, but if you remember in elementary physics, when we were maybe, I don't know, 6, 8, I don't know when you learned elementary physics, they taught you that stress was the, what an object experiences when you apply an external force to it, right? But that the stress was not equal to the force, it was equal to the force divided by the cross-section of the object, right? the example they gave us in the Middle East, which I eventually realized was not taught in other schools around the world, was that this is why the camel's hoofs don't, don't sink in the sand. And I'm like, yeah, I can see that, right? Even though I had never seen a camel by the time. But anyway, the idea is that the camel is a ton of weight, but you distribute that across 4 big hoofs. And then the stress on every square centimeter of the hoof is not that high, so the camel doesn't sink in the sand. In humans, so basically in physics, stress is force divided by square area, right? In humans, stress is the challenges that you face divided by, if you want, your square area, your skills, your resources, your abilities to deal with the stress, okay? And that gave me a very, very, very hopeful outlook on the idea of writing about stress, because in that case, while the external stressors are not always within your control, by the way, sometimes they are, okay, you have control over the square area. You can focus your abilities and skills and network and so on and so forth, not to just create more and more and be more productive and make more pounds in your bank account, but also to live a stress-free life. You can direct yourself in that direction, and then stress becomes a lot more manageable if you want. So in that case, stress is the sum of all the stressors you face divided by the sum of all your skills and abilities and resources to deal with them, right? So you can also, by the way, see that this didn't require physics, because in reality, things that freaked me out when I was 20, when I became 30, I managed to deal with them. When in my 40s, I dealt with them with ease. And then, honestly, when I face them in my 50s, I laugh. Like, I was ever stressed about that. Why was I ever stressed about that, right? Not because the challenge changed, but because the square area changed. My skills, my abilities, my network, my resources, and so on. Right. So how about that guy that basically says stress is good for you? I mean, in a way, he's not lying. Huh? Stress is good for you when it's used within context, right? So there's no denying that if a tiger shows up, cortisol in your bloodstream followed by adrenaline is a very good idea. We want that, right? And actually, when you really think about it, the visual you want to imagine is the Incredible Hulk, right? You see that green, massive, hulk of a man because of cortisol, too much cortisol, if you want. The research will show you, however, research of one of my dear friends, Dr. Jill Balti-Taylor, basically shows that cortisol in your blood reconfigures you completely, like almost makes a different human out of you for 90 seconds, only 90 seconds. And then within 90 seconds, cortisol is flushed out of your bloodstream, and you then have to refer to your intellect, believe it or not, to your prefrontal cortex, to your rational brain, to analyze the situation and see and assess if you need another shot of cortisol or not, right? So every 90 seconds, you're supposed to look at the situation around you in a microsecond. This is not a conscious event. And then you basically ask yourself, is there a further reason for fight or flight? Should I continue to stress this body? Right? And as you get another shot of cortisol, you can continue to be stressed. The problem in the modern world, when you really think about it, is that, how do I say this? There are no tigers, they're just emails, really, okay? Right? And so interestingly, when you go through your rational prefrontal cortex, you look at the email and it's still there, right? And you're still stressed. And you keep injecting yourself with stress hormones, sometimes for another 90 seconds, sometimes for another 90 minutes, sometimes for another 90 days. And I will tell you openly, sometimes for a lifetime. Okay? Now, that is using stress out of context. Okay? Out of context first and foremost, because there is actually no threat to your life. Okay, and 2, because you keep renewing the lease on it in ways that can keep you stressed for a very long time. And the idea of being stressed for a very long time is one of the 3 ways we break. So just that, just like they say, and by the way, it's true, huh? It doesn't have to be a tiger. Huh? You can have a presentation on Thursday and you're a little stressed about it. That makes you perform better. That's wonderful. Okay? But then the problem is there is use in stress within that context. But if you keep stress or use stress the wrong way or be triggered by the wrong things to be stressed, you end up breaking. And I know if you haven't experienced that yourself, I know that you know a lot of friends that have either burnt out or really broke down completely. And I say there are 3 reasons why we break down under stress. One of them is outside our control. I have to acknowledge that. One of them is trauma. Okay. And trauma in the book, in the book, we define the sources of stress in 4 quadrants. We call them a ton of stress, T-O-N-N, okay? Basically, external or internal. So is it from outside you or inside you, okay? And is it major in size or small in size, okay? So if it's major and from outside you, it's called trauma, okay? If it's major and from inside you, it's called obsession. The T-O, okay? Obsession is, for example, how we have, some of us will have a script around our parents, for example, and we keep obsessing about them over and over, and it can take you a lifetime to go through that script. If it's from inside you and small in magnitude, it's all of those nuisances, and noise, we call them. Noise is, I walk by the hotel elevator, and then I go like, oh, what's that little belly, right? It's not gonna kill me, that comment, but if I keep saying it every day, it adds up, right? And then and then nuisances, T-O-N-N, are external from outside you. External and small, right? External and small, like what? Like the noisy alarm that you have in the morning. Who here wakes up with an alarm every day? And how loud is the alarm if it's loud and annoying? Okay, great. Yeah. So that in itself is the very first jolt of cortisol in your blood before you even woke up, as you're waking up, right? So I said there are 3 reasons we break. The first is trauma, right? And trauma is an external major stressor that comes from outside. You have a very, painful breakup. You lose a job, you lose a loved one. You get in an accident, people who work in intensive care units in the NHS or whatever. These are very, very high level of traumas to either experience suffering at a very high level or to witness the suffering of others at a very high level. And trauma, sad to say, will break at least 90% of us at least once in your lifetime, okay? 91 to be very specific, 91% of us will have a PTSD-inducing traumatic event, the highest level of traumatic events once in your lifetime, okay? That's the bad news. The good news is 93% will recover in 3 months, right? And 96.7% will recover in 6 months. And all of those that recover will enjoy something called post-traumatic growth, okay? So while we tell ourselves that we don't like to be broken by a trauma, while I wish for none of you to ever be broken by a trauma, it's actually not the reason for the stress pandemic we feel in the world today, right? It comes, it goes. And by the way, those numbers are from the 9/11 victims. Huh? So these are people that were in the Twin Towers when the planes hit, okay, or in the vicinity. And 96.7% would recover in 6 months. So what then breaks us? What breaks us are, in my view, burnout and anticipation of a threat. Okay? Burnout is, again, in physics, remember when they used to do those experiments where you can easily break 1 stick of wood, but you can't break 5 of them together, right? At the same time, you can take a very big object, and if you apply multiple forces to it, you can break it, right? So if this chair can take my weight, I think it can, not such a big belly, but it wouldn't take 10 of us standing on it. So the more challenges you add to the object, the more the object will break, the easier the object will break. And burnout is exactly the result of that. And the thing about it is it's very sneaky, okay? So burnout is the sum of all of the challenges you face multiplied by the intensity of each of them, multiplied by the frequency of application, multiplied by the time of application or the duration of application, right? So if you take a simple stressor like your commute, if you commute and the commute is incredibly stressful, it's not on the Elizabeth line, but it's on one of the other very difficult ones, right? Which one? Piccadilly, I think, is the one that kills me. One of them squeaks. Which one is that? Oh my God, that's so like... and I really, if it wasn't raining, I would walk, but it's always raining. So what, but you have to think about that. If the commute is more difficult, it's likely to burn you out more, right? And if you do it every day, imagine if you do it 3 times a day, and imagine if you do it for the whole line, right? So interestingly, you just sum them up in very simple mathematics. You sum all of those up. When they exceed your ability to take the stress, your resources, you'll break. Okay? The thing, funny enough, is that you don't break because suddenly a mega challenge came into your life. You broke because your colleague says, hey, good morning. And you go like, don't good morning me, like I can't take another thing today, right? And that's quite interesting, huh? So we could try to prevent the last good morning, okay? But that's not the answer. The answer is to prevent all of the sum of all of those challenges that come into my life. And to be quite honest, I find this staggering that this is not an exercise that you do on a weekly basis, okay? So I urge you, please, on Saturday, to take a piece of paper and write down every little thing that stressed you this week. Every little thing. The commute stressed me, the coffee was cold, my colleague said this, social media did that, my neck is hurting. Write down every single one of them, okay? And literally, with a red pen, scratch out the ones that you can remove. You literally want to remove them from your life. As I said, the loud alarm, replace that with lovely meditation music, okay? That gets louder over time. Huh? Don't spend more time than you need on social media. Make sure that your neck and arms are not hurting because you're holding your phone all the time. This is one side of dealing with it. The other side of dealing with it is and ease the intensity of the ones you cannot remove. If you have to be on your commute, okay, don't read your email on your commute. Don't squeeze yourself so that you're stressed on time. Take some good music with you, and enjoy the journey somehow, or maybe listen to something that you're interested in. So this is burnout. Burnout is very sneaky. In my personal view, when I started to write the book, I thought that burnout was the biggest reason for the pandemic of stress, okay? No, it's not. The biggest reason is what I realized is anticipation of a threat, okay? Anticipation of a threat is that idea of us being occupied by fear and its 3 other derivatives. So if you really think about the emotion that's known as fear, it's a forward-looking emotion that basically says a moment in the future is less safe for me than this moment right now. A moment in the future is less safe, I'm afraid, and a typical human reaction is, I need to address that threat. Whatever I'm afraid of, I need to deal with. And if you respond in that way to fear, that's actually not gonna stress you, believe it or not. When you're already in the mood of addressing the threat, you're actually engaged in a way where you're not sitting somewhere and stressing about it. When do we stress about it? We stress when we worry, when we're anxious, and when we panic. Okay? So worry, anxiety, and panic, believe it or not, are the biggest pandemic of our lifetime. Okay? This younger generation specifically feels it quite intensely, right? And they are different. Even though they're the same derivative of fear, it's the same family if you want, they're actually subtly different. Worry is not an emotion that's triggered by a moment in the future is less safe than now. It's not. Worry is, I'm not sure if the moment in the future is fearful, I should be afraid of it or not. okay? I haven't made up my mind if I should freak out or chill. You know that flip-flop? It's like you wake up one day and you go like, I'm going to lose my job. No, I'm not going to lose my job. No, I'm going to lose my job. No, I'm not going to. Which is it, right? And the problem, believe it or not, is it's much more stressful to not make up your mind. That constant change in itself is very stressful, than it is to address the issue. The problem is, if you start to address the issue as if I'm going to lose my job, okay, you start to go in a certain direction, and then you go like, no, hold on, I'm not going to search for other jobs. I'm actually not going to lose it. I'm going to double down and please my boss so that I get promoted. And then you start to do that, and you get frustrated and say, I'm going to lose my job, then I need to look for it, right? And you sort of are crippled from taking the action, okay, because you haven't made up your mind. And so if you respond to worry as you respond to fear, you're likely going to be more afraid, okay, because you haven't taken the action. So what's the answer? The answer is make up your mind. Either chill, okay, or freak out. Both are good places to be, believe it or not, okay? But not being decided is a problem. So this is one emotion. The other emotion is probably, in my mind, the most common in today's world, which is anxiety. And anxiety, once again, is not focused on the threat. When I'm anxious, I'm not thinking about the threat that's ahead of me. I'm thinking about my own capability to deal with it. Anxiety is a conviction that that there is a threat in the future, but that I don't have the skills to deal with it, right? Once again, if you deal with it as fear and try to address the threat, what ends up happening is what? Every time you try to address the threat, you're not able to because you don't have the skills, so what happens is you get more anxious, okay? It's a constant reminder that I'm failing at this, I'm failing at this, I'm failing at this. Right? And when you see it that way, you realize that when you feel anxiety, don't think about the threat at all. Think about your skills. When you think about your skills, what you're able to do is to look at the situation and say, if I do this a little better, I need to invite a friend to teach me something. I need to maybe free up a little time to watch a YouTube video. I may need to read a book, whatever. Okay? I may need to partner with someone that can help me with the skills that I'm missing, and then the anxiety goes away, right? The third is panic. Panic is also not related to the threat ahead of you. Panic is related to time. You panic when the threat is imminent, and the closer the threat is, the more you panic, okay? So when one of your friends says, I'm getting panic attacks, it's because they're feeling that something is approaching them, and it's approaching them too quick, right? And so when you feel panicked, you need to address the issue of time. You need to either, you have a presentation on Thursday, you don't feel ready, you're panicking because today is, what is today, Wednesday? I have no idea. Can you believe that? Today is Wednesday, right? And so what should you do? You should either cancel a few things and attend to your presentation. You should invite a friend to come and compensate a little bit of the deficit of time that you have. Or you can simply call the person expecting the presentation and say, can we do it 2 days later or 2 hours later, right? And then the panic goes away, and then you address it better. Just to finalize, I have 2 more minutes to tell you my biggest tip, okay? There are 4 quadrants, we call them 4 modalities in Unstressable, of where stress happens and how you accordingly need to deal with it. We call them mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual stress, okay? Just very high-level definitions. Mental stress are all the thoughts that run into your mind. Emotional stress are the emotions that you ignore and let take you down. Physical stresses are the pains in your body, the way your body communicates stress is pains and aches. And spiritual stress is when you feel out of alignment with your purpose, with your real being, with yourself. You feel unable to express yourself. Each of them speaks differently, and each of them needs to be dealt with differently. We won't have the time to cover all of them. But I think on mental stress, again, in my very brainiac approach to life, I sort of believe that your mind is the hub through which everything happens. So even your emotions will go through your mind on the path to be generated. As I said, fear is a conviction that a moment in the future is less safe than now, right? So if you have to get that concept somehow in your mind to be afraid, right? You have to get the concept of the threat is approaching too quickly. I don't have enough time. That's a concept that you get in your mind to feel panic, right? And as I said, you first start with the hormones, and then 90 seconds later, you have to rely on your prefrontal cortex. So for me, a very interesting shortcut is to always address the mind, okay? And addressing the mind is something that we rarely ever do, either because we're swiping away all the time or because we haven't been trained to deal with it. And so I use what I call the happiness flow chart. Whenever I feel stressed, I ask myself 3 questions, okay? Whatever is stressing me, I ask myself 3 questions. First step, by the way, is to identify what's stressing you. Write it down very clearly. We can do that now if you want. Just identify one thing in your mind that is stressing you. And then you ask yourself the first question, is what my mind telling me true? Is what my mind telling me true, okay? My partner is stressed because of multiple things, and so she sometimes says a comment that hurts me a little, and then my mind would say she doesn't love me anymore, right? But she constantly tells me that she loves me, and she's perhaps stressed because she's unable to show her love to me. Is it true? Is it true? Is it true that she doesn't love me, right? And if we ask that question, believe it or not, I will tell you openly, 98% of the time, it will not be true, okay? I can guarantee you that 70% of the time, this is actually scientific research, it's negatively biased. So your mind will want to see the negative side of something, not the positive side of it, because the negative is what constitutes a threat to you. If it is true, okay, then the second question is, what can I do to fix it? What can I do to fix it is almost, the natural reason why stress exists. It's basically telling you something needs your attention. What can you do to fix it? If there is something you can do to fix it, fix it. And the stress will go away and the world will become better. Okay? If you cannot fix it, then question number 3 is, what can I do to accept it and commit to make my life better despite its presence? Okay? So we all know that the economics of the UK are becoming challenging. Okay? There's nothing you can do to change that. It's bigger than you and me. So what can you do to accept it? To tell yourself, this is the new reality for a while. How can I accept it? And then start to commit to take the actions I need to make my life better despite its presence. Can I change my spending habits? Can I, invest, in something that can help me out? Can I, maybe find alternative ways to make money? Can I move out of my place to a cheaper place, and so on and so forth?